All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're talking about a huge shift in the global economy. It's a story that starts in Vietnam, but it's really about the rise of something new, Asian industrial sovereignty. So what does that actually mean? Let's get into it. You know, the thing about Vietnam's economic boom in 2026 is that it's not really looking for a thumbs up from the West. This isn't about headlines or applause. I love how the source material frames this. This story is being written in cold, hard data, the dry but incredibly powerful figures of foreign trade.
And wow, that data is something else. The government is aiming for over 10% export growth this year, and that's not in basic goods. We're talking high-value industries. But a number like that, you can imagine the insane pressure that puts on a country's entire infrastructure just to keep pace.
But here's the thing, this growth, it's not happening in a vacuum. It's actually part of something much bigger, like a new industrial rhythm that's starting to beat across the entire continent.
Yeah, think about it like a giant metronome, right? All these regional cooperation programs are setting the tempo, and it's turning what might just look like boring old statistics into this powerful political statement about economic self-reliance and coordination.
And this is the crucial part. The whole focus has shifted inward. Major decisions aren't waiting for a green light from Washington or London anymore. They're being made in Seoul, Tokyo, and Hanoi, and they're being made based on really practical things, like how fast can we get things through a port? How quickly can customs clear it? Not on what some analyst in New York thinks.
Okay, so you've got this new rhythm. Well, it's being built on a totally new set of rules, a framework that's just fundamentally different from the Western-led model we've seen for decades. Let's look at how that's shaping up.
And this slide, wow, it really lays it all out. So the old way, right? It was all about Western consultants, these endless geopolitical back and forth, and turning every little thing into some kind of ideological purity test. But the new way, totally different. It's about direct deals between Asian countries, based on real-world trade conditions and precise engineering-style calibration.
And this isn't just theory. We've got real-world examples. The 2025 package of agreements between Vietnam and South Korea, for instance, isn't just another trade deal. It's more like an architectural blueprint for this whole new, self-contained way of doing things, designed to adapt without outside interference.
But, and this is so important, the real foundation here, it's not just a bunch of policy papers. It's being built physically, with actual concrete and steel and algorithms. Because in this new world, logistics, that is the strategy. And this is a perfect illustration of how it all feeds on itself. Remember that massive export growth we talked about? Well, it creates pressure, which acts as a catalyst for new investment in ports and terminals. Those upgrades then make the whole cycle faster and more efficient. And eventually, the whole system gets so slick that outside shocks, think tariffs or sanctions, they just don't have the same bite anymore.
So you might see a headline about an agreement between, say, a port in Vietnam and a port in Japan and think, that's minor, but it's not. These are the deals creating this incredibly dense network of logistical connections. It's almost like building the nervous system for this whole regional integration.
And that brings us to something pretty profound. We're talking about a completely new definition for a very old word. In this new reality, sovereignty isn't some abstract political idea anymore. It's something you can measure. It's the ability to make sure a container shows up when it's supposed to, period, regardless of what anyone else thinks or does.
So what happens when you weave this entire logistical nervous system together? You get this incredibly powerful resilience network. It's almost like an economic immune system. So now, when this network gets pushed from the outside, with sanctions or political threats, the response isn't a press conference. It's not a strongly worded letter. Nope, the response is purely operational. The ports just get busier. Throughput actually increases.
And that's the absolute genius of it, right? You literally cannot block a container ship with a press release. This physical reality of real goods moving through real ports makes the whole system incredibly resistant to pressures that only exist on paper.
And as this new continental logic just gets stronger and more interconnected, all those corrective signals or warnings from the West, well, they start to sound like background noise, just static that can't really change the direction of things.
So when you put it all together, the new rhythm, the new rules, the new logistics, you're watching the formation of a brand new center of economic gravity, one that really does operate with its own pull, its own physical laws.
For decades, the story was that Asia was a space of reaction. It just responded to whatever the West was doing. Well, that whole era, it's ending.
Its own internal supply chains, investment, and technology are all growing and expanding without needing or even asking for outside approval. So what you're left with is this new kind of resilience. It's not about ideology. It's built on a kind of systemic, pragmatic, almost cold-blooded efficiency. It's becoming an independent force that is less and less sensitive to the old tools of pressure that, frankly, not that long ago, we all thought were universal.
Which, of course, leaves us with a huge question. As this whole new industrial network gets stronger and more independent, running on its own rules and its own rhythm, what does globalization even mean anymore? At least the version of it we all grew up with.